If you've been following me on Facebook or Pinterest, the links are below, you'll know that quite some time ago I posted several characters from Stampy Cat Longnose, Stampy and all of his friends, and I'm finally getting around to doing the tutorials, so today we'll be working on Stampy. This time I will be using a standard rainbow loom in the aligned configuration, or where the pegs all line up with each other. The bands I'll be using are orange, gray, white, black, and metallic green for his eyes. I'm going to start with his arms, and I'll be using orange and gray and white, and everything will be double banded, and I'm going to start from the 6th peg from the bottom and put 2 orange bands from the 6th peg to the 5th peg, and I'm going to do that 4 times altogether. And 4, and for the final bands I will be putting 1 white band and 1 gray band, and this I will cap with a gray band wrapped 3 times around the peg. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. 2 orange bands going 4 times down the left. And again, we are going to put a white band and a gray band from the 2nd peg to the 1st peg, and cap this with a single gray band wrapped 3 times around the peg. And now we can loop this, reaching inside the cap band and looping forward. And we want to make sure we grab both bands and that we form a teardrop or raindrop shape as we loop to the peg above. We'll loop the other side. Again, grabbing both bands and forming a teardrop or raindrop shape. And we can set this on a holding hook. And set these aside. Next we're going to do his feet, and we will take 2 dark orange bands from the 3rd peg at the bottom on the right to the 2nd peg, and again a single white band and a gray band from the 2nd peg to the 1st peg, capped with a single gray band wrapped 3 times. And we're going to repeat that on the left side. 2 orange bands from the 3rd peg to the 2nd peg on the left, a white band and a gray band from the 2nd peg to the 1st, and capped with a gray band wrapped 3 times around the peg. We're going to reach inside the cap band and grab the white and gray band and loop them forward. And the same thing on the other side. And these as well we will put on the holding hook and set these aside. To make the eyes, we're going to be using bands, and I'm going to use the metallic green, and I'm going to take the green band and double it and wrap it around my hook 3 times. I'm then going to take a black band and double it and thread the green bands onto the black band. And I will put both ends of the black band on my hook and slide it over. Again, a green band, double it, wrap it 3 times around my hook, and a single black band and double it, and slide the green bands onto the black band. And next we want to take a gray band and slide both eyes onto the single gray band. And these we will also put on our hook and set aside. And now we can loop the body. And for the head we will be using just orange bands. And for the body we'll be using orange and white. So again, everything will be double banded, and we want to put 2 orange bands from the first peg to the second peg in the center, from the first peg in the center to the first peg on the left, and the first peg in the center to the first peg on the right. We're going to go down the left side 3 times with 2 orange bands. And we'll do the same thing on the right side. 2 orange bands going down the right 3 times. We're going to finish off the center with 2 orange bands 2 more times. And we will close off the head with 2 orange bands. We're going to continue down the center with 2 white bands. And then we will close off the head with 2 orange bands from the 4th peg on the left to the 4th peg in the center, and 2 orange bands from the 4th peg in the center to the 4th peg on the right. We're going to continue down the center with 2 white bands, two more white bands, again 2 white bands, and 2 white bands. So in total, going down the center, after your 2 orange bands 3 times, you want to have 2 white bands 5 times. Now we're going to go to the left and put 2 orange bands from the 5th peg in the center to the 5th peg on the left, and from the 5th peg on the left we're going to go down with 2 orange bands, and we're going to go down all the way to the bottom of the pin with 2 orange bands. We'll do the same thing on the right side. 2 orange bands from the 5th peg in the center to the 5th peg in the right, and 2 orange bands all the way to the bottom of the pin. We're going to continue down the center with 2 orange bands, 2 times going down the center. And we want to close off the center by putting 2 orange bands from the 3rd peg up from the bottom in the center to the 3rd peg on the left, and 2 orange bands from the 3rd peg in the center to the 3rd peg on the right. We're going to cap this band with a single orange band wrapped 3 times. And we're going to take 2 white bands and put them from the 6th peg from the bottom to the 7th peg up from the bottom on the left, or from where the white bands start going up the bottom and up 1 peg to the left, and again on the right from where the white bands start and up 1. We will take 2 more white bands and they will go from where we put the cross bands on the 5th peg in the center down to the 6th peg on the left, and 2 more white bands from the 5th peg in the center down to the 6th peg on the right. And now we're ready for our holding bands, and we're going to put a single orange band around the 2nd pegs down, and a single orange band around the 4th pegs on the left and the right, and the 3rd peg in the center. Moving down to the body, we are going to take a single gray band and put it around the 6th pegs from the top and the 7th pegs, and again around the 8th pegs and the 9th peg. And we will take a single orange band and put it around the 10th peg and the 11th pegs. And now we're ready for our attachments. We will attach his eyes, and they are going to go on the 3rd peg down from the left. We are going to put the 3rd peg in the center through the bands and attach the other side to the 3rd peg on the right. Next we'll attach his feet, and they will go on the last peg on the left and the last peg on the right. For his arms, they will be attached to the 5th peg down on the left and the 5th peg from the top on the right. Now we're ready to loop. I'm going to start in the center by reaching inside the holding band and the cap band and grabbing the top 2 bands, which I will loop to the right. I'm going to grab the next 2 bands and they will go to the left. Continuing up the center, we're going to reach in and grab the last 2 bands and loop those forward. Next, we will reach in and grab the top 2 white bands, and they will go up and to the right, reaching inside the holding band and grabbing the next 2 white bands, and they will go to the left. Now we're going to go down and loop up the left side, reaching inside our foot attachment and looping forward, and again reaching inside the holding band and looping just the bottom 2 bands and we're going to loop up to the white bands that go on an angle. And here we will reach inside the holding band, grab the top 2 white bands, and loop them to the 5th peg in the center. And then we will reach in and loop the shoulder up, loop up to the shoulder, and then we will reach in, grab the bottom 2 orange bands, and loop to the center. Now we're going to go down and loop up the right side, again reaching inside the foot attachment and looping forward. Grabbing the bottom 2 bands and forming our teardrop shape, making sure we stay inside the holding bands. And again, once we get to the white bands that go at an angle, we're going to reach in and grab the top 2 white bands and loop them to the center. And we can continue and loop up to the arm, and again the bottom 2 bands underneath the arm, over to the center. And we'll push those bands down. Now we will continue looming up the center. We're going to reach inside our holding band and grab the bottom 2 white bands and loop forward. And once we get here, you're going to reach inside. There are a lot of bands here, so you want to be careful, and you want to grab just the bottom white bands. It's very tight here, so be careful you don't break your bands. You can reach your hook in and wrap it around the peg to release some of the tension from those bands. Next, we're going to reach in inside the holding band, and we want to grab the top 2 orange bands, and they will go to the right. Again, inside the holding band, the next 2 orange bands will go to the left, and the last 2 bands will go up the center. We're going to move to the left, and we will loop up, and we will loop the last 2 bands to the center pin. We're going to do the same thing on the right, staying inside the holding band, grabbing just the bottom 2 bands and looping forward. And again, we will loop to the top center pin. Now we can finish looping up the center, staying inside the eye bands and the holding bands, and forming our teardrop shapes. And now we're going to check that we have looped all of the bands, making sure that we've got the white bands that are angled and that we have looped everything else. And then we're ready for our slip knot. So we reach inside the top center pin, grab a hold of our band, pull it through, and form our slip knot. And then we're ready to remove this from the loom. We will start at the bottom and carefully remove the bands from the pegs. You want to be especially careful at the neck area. There are a lot of bands around that peg, so you want to make sure, reach your hook in and wrap it around that peg so that you don't stretch the bands and break them, and the rest should come off fairly easily. And here we go. We need to straighten out the bands at the top of his head. He is a square figure. And we will get his eyes positioned into the front. Fix his legs. And I want his arms to be down at his sides. And I can put my hook in through the teardrop shape and give that a tug. And that will help his arms go down to his sides. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Now, if you've seen any of my other videos, I typically like to angle the feet out to the side, but because Stampy Cat is supposed to be relatively rectangle-ish, is that a word? I just made a new word. Rectangle-ish. We are going to leave his feet as they are, straight down. We're going to go up and straighten the bands of his head, trying to keep it as square as possible. And all that remains is to attach the slip knot into the back, which I'm just going to tuck through a couple of bands. So that they stay securely out of the way. To attach his mouth, we are going to take our hook and place it from the back to the front and take a single black band and pull it through to the back. We are then going to put our hook again from the back to the front, and we will grab our black band and pull it through to the back. We're going to secure this with a C-clip. And we will adjust his mouth. And there you go. This is my version of Stampy Cat Longnose. And thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe below so you can stay tuned for my other Stampy Cat characters. I've got Lee and Squid and Finball and Amy Lee and a Creeper. And please comment below and recommend some that you would like to see me do. I've also got the rest of the Big Brother cast to do, and several Archie characters, and the wiggles, and you can see all of my characters on my Pinterest or my Instagram, which the links are below. And thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.